Hi everyone, my name is Linda. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Orphan Trains. Um, they ran for 75 years, mostly in the Midwestern states. Um, Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, Wisconsin. Um, and the reason this was um, Charles Brace uh, was this guy who created something, the Children's Aid Society. And uh, he started this society to get these children off the streets. Um, Even though the majority of them did have children or parents, maybe just one parent at sometimes, he was able to um, get the parents to agree to let them be adopted out, as he knew that the parents were just having a hard time making ends meet, um, just supporting themselves. So some of these children who weren't necessarily in the streets were still affected by homelessness, even though they were working uh, to help earn money for the family. It still just wasn't enough to get the families supported well. They worked in factories, and you could see some were even barefoot. And these factories are set up, but they worked long hours. They didn't have air conditioning. They didn't run fans. So they worked in these hot industry um, facilities or factories, 16 hours a day sometimes, 6 days a week, and with very, very little to show for. Some of the children, um, even though they had families, stayed on the streets, or even sleeping in the streets. Sometimes just finding food wherever they could, you know, discarded food even. So Charles Brace, as I said earlier, he decided to start the um, Children's Aid Society to get children off the streets and to supply uh, better homes for them, which of course was his intent. Now, was that in actuality? He placed out, which was the term they used back then, placed out children in Iowa, as you can see, Minnesota, other states. And the reason why they did it in the Midwest was because the trains ran just in those locations at the time. So 1853, 1854 to 1929, these trains ran with sometimes 5 to 35 children, and generally just one agent would go with those children on the trains. So you're going stop to stop to stop. Which, by the way, the locations were planned in advance. They would be contacted, uh, like Iowa, let's say. They would contact in advance. They would let the children out, and the prospective parents would walk side by side, along the way, finding the children they wanted. And most of the times, the children that they picked were males, older male children, because they could work. They didn't necessarily take these children because they really wanted children. They took them out of need. So the Children's Aid Society would uh, talk to these parents and give them instructions. Now, uh, they would have to sign these forms, and then they would also be given not a packet, but something that would say what the instructions were, what they expected from them. The question then was, were these children treated well? Research. For the most part, they were not. Some children had to sleep in barns or in the not a shed, but like the little shacks that they had on them, because they were treated like hired hands. They had to eat after the family ate. They ate separately from the family. I guess there's some evidence that did show that there were children who ran away, and that you would see in papers that would be posted, $50 reward. But you think, wait, in that time, that's a lot of money for a child to get a child back. So they're working hard. They're working in the fields. They're pulling potatoes. They're picking potatoes. They're working on plows, barefoot. That child right there is barefoot. They picked cotton. And if you've ever been in the cotton field, you know, that's pretty tough work. They've got thorns on those things. Walking around in all those fields. Get myself out of the way here. So young girls also worked really hard. You can see they were scrubbing floors. So what ended up happening as a result, there were social workers who got together with the government, some people in the government, and said, "Look, these children are not being treated fairly at all. Let's get together and figure out what we can do for them." And so they started setting regulations and rules and putting in place stricter laws about adoption, background checks on the family. So that isn't to say it was necessarily a bad thing. And I think Charles had the best intentions with this. And as a matter of fact, his agency, when they decided to close out all these agencies across the Midwest, his was not just the very first to start, but also the very last to close its doors. He adopted out only children who were white. Not they were children who were European, who were Scottish, who were English. Those were the children who were being adopted out, and they were Protestants. He tried not to adopt out families who were children who were Catholic. And another thing that came up was the language barrier. Some of these families in the Midwest didn't speak English, and some of these children who were coming into the homes did, or vice versa. So there was another thing that was being overlooked when being adopted. Which I think, when you think about it, if these families are being interviewed, don't they know right then and there, hey, this child speaks English and this person's trying to speak German to me? It just flabbergasts me that they didn't seem to be that diligent. I think Charles had better intent. I think if he went along the way, he would be trying to find families who spoke the language of the child. That's just my thought. But anyway, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you have a better understanding of what went on